The Academy of the Stars was never quiet. Every corridor was filled with the voices of young aliens learning the ways of survival, battle, and diplomacy. In one corner of the Great Hall stood a massive steel cage, glowing faintly with energy fields. Inside the cage rested a predator, a creature from a deadly world. The predator was no ordinary beast. It had scales like black stone, claws sharper than blades, and eyes that burned with wild hunger. The alien students whispered to one another. Some could barely look at it without trembling, for this creature had once destroyed whole hunting teams. Today's lesson was about fear and control. The instructor, a tall alien with silver skin, spoke with authority. "Observe," he said. "This predator fears nothing. It will teach you what happens when arrogance meets reality." His voice echoed in the hall. Among the rows of students sat a human boy. His name was Daniel, quiet, often unnoticed. Many aliens ignored him. Others mocked him for being from a species considered weak. Daniel kept his eyes lowered, listening without speaking. The instructor began the demonstration, tapping the cage controls. The predator roared, slamming against the bars. Sparks flew as its strength shook the energy field. The alien students gasped. Some stepped back in fear. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang out. The cage door hissed and glitched. The energy barrier flickered. In one terrifying instant, the predator burst free. Metal shattered. The creature leaped into the hall. Panic followed. Students screamed. Some ran toward the exits. Others froze in shock. The predator's roar echoed like thunder, its massive form towering over them. The instructor shouted commands, but fear had already broken the order of the class. Daniel did not move. His heart pounded, but his body stayed still. He watched the predator with steady eyes. He did not run. He did not scream. Something inside him whispered to wait. The predator noticed him, its head lowered, its burning eyes locked onto Daniel. Claws scraped the floor as it approached. Every step sent shivers through the hall. Aliens cried out, "It will kill him!" But the predator stopped just a breath away. Its hot breath washed over Daniel, sharp teeth gleaming. For a moment, time froze. Everyone waited for the strike. Then something impossible happened. The predator lowered its head, pressing its massive body down to the ground. It lay at Daniel's feet, as if in surrender. The hall went silent. Every alien eye turned wide. Whispers spread like fire. It bowed. It obeyed. How? Daniel did not understand it himself. He only stared back, his eyes calm, his face pale but unshaken. The predator growled softly, not in anger, but in strange respect. The instructor's voice broke the silence, trembling. "Impossible, this cannot be." He tried to reset the cage, but the predator refused to move. It stayed beside Daniel as though chained by unseen bonds. Some students shouted accusations. "The human controls it. He has forbidden tech. This is not natural." Others looked with fear, whispering that humans might have a hidden power. Daniel shook his head, his voice low. "I did nothing." But no one believed him. Guards rushed in, weapons ready, yet none dared shoot. They feared hitting the boy. The predator hissed at them, but when Daniel raised a hand slightly, the beast went quiet, as if listening. The whispers grew louder. "It listens to him." Humans can command predators. The words carried through the academy like poison and wonder. The predator finally allowed itself to be pushed back into a reinforced cage, stronger than before. But its glowing eyes never left Daniel. Even as the bars closed, it kept watching him, loyal, waiting. That night, the academy was restless. Rumors spread through every corridor. Students told the story in shocked voices. Some said Daniel was a hidden weapon. Others said humanity had ancient ties with predators. Daniel sat alone in his small quarters, the memory replaying in his mind. He had felt something strange when the predator looked into his eyes, as if a connection older than words had formed. Outside, the stars burned quietly. But within the academy, fear and curiosity grew. No one slept peacefully. Everyone whispered the same question. Why did the predator bow before the human? The next morning, the academy was buzzing with noise. The story of the predator and the human had spread faster than light. Every student, every teacher, every guard whispered about it. In the cafeteria, alien students gathered in tight groups, their eyes darting nervously toward Daniel as he walked by. Some leaned close to one another, whispering, "He made it kneel. He is dangerous." Others simply stared in silence. Daniel tried to ignore them. He carried his tray and sat in the far corner. He wanted to eat quietly, but the stares followed him like shadows. The predator was moved into a stronger cage deep inside the academy. Guards doubled their patrols. Weapons were armed at all times. Still, fear spread. If one predator had bowed, what if others did the same? The instructors called secret meetings. Many demanded answers. One silver-skinned teacher pounded the table. This is a threat. If humans can control predators, they can control entire wars. Another hissed. Ban the human. Send him back to his homeworld. But others shook their heads. No, we must study this. What if this is not control, but instinct? Whispers of ancient legends began to surface. Records of old wars where strange beasts marched beside human soldiers. Tales buried deep in forgotten archives. Daniel had no knowledge of this, but he felt the weight of every eye upon him when he walked down the halls. Students moved aside, some in fear, some in awe. A few muttered insults, calling him monster. That night he heard the sound of metal scraping. Curious, he followed the noise toward the predator's cage. The hall was empty, guards nowhere to be seen. The predator pressed against the reinforced bars, its eyes glowing in the dim light. When it saw Daniel, it stopped its struggle. Lowering its head once more, Daniel whispered, "Why me?" His voice soft, trembling. The predator's growl answered like a deep echo, not hostile but protective, unseen by Daniel. Two alien officials watched from the shadows, their faces grim. One whispered, "We cannot allow this to spread." The other nodded, "If word reaches the council, humanity will rise again." The next day rumors became sharper. Some students claimed Daniel had hidden devices in his eyes. Others believed humans carried secret genes that made predators obey. A few began to fear that if Daniel grew angry, he could unleash the beast on them. Tension rose. Daniel sat in class while whispers filled the air. The instructor glared at him with suspicion. No one dared sit close to him during training drills. A group of alien students confronted him. Their leader sneered, "Show us your trick, human. Make me kneel like the beast." They pushed him, tried to provoke him, but Daniel stayed silent, refusing to fight. Then, without warning, the predator's roar shook the walls. Though its cage was far away, the sound reached them like thunder. The bullies froze, fear crawling over their faces. Daniel stood still, his eyes steady. He had not called it, yet somehow the beast knew. The connection between them was stronger than anyone wanted to admit. Whispers grew into fear, fear into suspicion, suspicion into hatred, and hatred into danger. In the council chambers far above the academy, leaders received secret reports. One line repeated again and again, "The predator obeys the human." And with those words, the galaxy itself began to shift. The academy did not rest. The predator's surrender to Daniel was no longer just an accident. It became a symbol, a question, and a fear. Inside the great archive chambers, alien scholars searched ancient records, dust-covered tablets, and digital fragments from forgotten wars. One whisper kept repeating, "In the age before councils, beasts marched with humans." Daniel knew none of this. He walked through the halls, feeling every stare heavy upon him. The predator's roar still echoed in his mind, stronger each night, as if calling him. Instructors grew restless. Their lessons no longer about science or diplomacy. Instead, they spoke of control, power, and danger. The word human became more feared than the predator itself. A secret meeting was called. High-ranking officials gathered in a dim chamber. The silver-skinned instructor spoke first. "I found it in the old files. There are reports from the forgotten wars. Predators used as living weapons, and they did not fight against humans. They fought beside them." Shock rippled through the chamber. One elder hissed, "Those are only myths." But the instructor shook his head. "Not myths. Records. Fragments hidden by our ancestors to protect us from truth." Meanwhile, Daniel was summoned by guards. They led him to the predator's cage again. This time, the hall was filled with witnesses, instructors, officials, and students. The predator was restless, slamming its body against the bars. The guards raised their weapons, ready to fire, but the elder in charge commanded, "Wait, let the human approach." Daniel's steps echoed slowly as he walked closer. The predator roared, shaking the walls, but as Daniel's eyes met its glowing gaze, the beast lowered itself once again. Silence fell like a storm ending. Gasps filled the hall. Whispers turned into shouts. It is true. He controls it. Humans are predators themselves. Daniel shook his head, his voice trembling. I do not control it. It just listens. But no one cared for his words. Their fear was stronger than truth. That night, while others slept, two scholars dug deeper into the archive. They discovered sealed files hidden away by the council. One file described ancient human soldiers leading armies of predators against empires that no longer existed. The file ended with a warning. If humanity rises again, the balance of power will end. The next day, rumors exploded. More students began to keep distance from Daniel. Some dropped their classes, others avoided eye contact, and some began to gather weapons in secret. The predator itself was moved to an even deeper chamber, guarded by energy fields, but it refused to eat unless Daniel was near. Every attempt to control it failed. Only Daniel's presence calmed it. One night, Daniel sat awake in his quarters, staring at the stars beyond his window. He whispered to himself, "Why me? Why humans?" And in the silence, he felt something stir deep within his chest. Not fear, but something older, heavier, as if a memory not his own. Across the galaxy, council members received reports, their halls filled with heated arguments. Some demanded humanity be restricted, others demanded humanity be studied. But one elder raised his voice above all. If this is true, then we are standing on the edge of something we cannot control. And for the first time, the galaxy began to fear not the predator, but the human who stood before it. The decision was made in silence. The Academy elders could not ignore what had happened. Rumors had grown too large. Whispers had turned into fear, so they chose to test the human before all. A message spread through the Academy. The human will face the predator in the arena. Students rushed to speak of it, some in excitement, some in dread. All knew this was no lesson. This was judgment. The arena was a vast circle of steel and stone. Energy shields formed walls high above. Thousands of aliens stew. Dense, instructors and council observers filled the seats, their eyes sharp with curiosity and fear. Daniel was brought forward by guards, his wrists unchained but his path surrounded. He walked with slow steps, his face pale but his eyes steady. Whispers followed him. He will die. He will prove the truth. He is dangerous. Across the arena, the predator was released. Its roar shook the ground, claws scraping sparks from the floor, its massive body tensed, ready to strike. The crowd leaned forward, holding their breath. A voice from the Elder Council echoed, "Human, survive if you can, beast. Show us your true nature." The predator charged, a storm of muscle and fury. Every heart froze. Every alien thought this would be the end of the human. But Daniel did not run. He stood his ground, his eyes locked on the beast. Time slowed. The predator's steps thundered closer, dust rising beneath its weight, its jaws open, teeth gleaming. Then in the final moment it stopped, its head lowering, its body pressing flat against the ground before him. The arena went silent. Thousands of voices died into a single breath of disbelief. Daniel reached out a trembling hand. His fingers brushed the predator's scaled head. The beast growled low, not in anger but in loyalty. The sound rolled like thunder. Gasps spread, shouts followed. Impossible. He commands it. Humans are predators, the elders whispered furiously. Some stood in outrage, others stared with fear, but Daniel only whispered, "I don't command you. Why do you obey me?" The predator's eyes glowed brighter, as if understanding something he did not. Suddenly, one of the instructors ordered the release of a second predator. The crowd erupted in shock. The gates opened and another beast entered, larger, faster, filled with rage. It charged at Daniel. The first predator rose like a wall, slamming its body against the second, claws clashing, roars shaking the arena. The two predators fought savagely, but when I'll raised his voice, shouting, "Stop!" Both froze, both lowered themselves, both obeyed. The arena shook with panic, whispers turned into terror. He does not command one, he commands them all. Daniel fell to his knees, his chest heavy with fear and confusion. He had not wanted this, yet the beasts obeyed as though bound to him. Above, the council envoy leaned close to the elders, his voice sharp. "This is not training, this is proof. Humans hold a power that should not exist." But in the shadows, one elder whispered to another, "Or perhaps this is the power the galaxy needs, a weapon none can resist." As Daniel stood again, The predators circled him, not as enemies but as guardians, their roars now a warning to all who dared approach. And in that moment, every soul in the arena understood a terrible truth. The galaxy's most feared predators had found their master, and he was human. The arena trial ended, but the echoes of it spread far beyond the Academy walls, across the galaxy. Signals carried the story of the human and the predators that bent to his will. In the great council chambers, the most powerful leaders of the galaxy gathered, massive halls filled with light. Towering figures of different species argued with voices like thunder. One counselor slammed his clawed hand on the table. Humans must be exiled. They are too dangerous. If beasts kneel to them, what armies could they raise? Another hissed, nonsense. This is an opportunity. Imagine predators unleashed on our enemies. Humans can become our weapon. An elder with golden eyes raised his voice above them. You speak of using fire while standing in a burning house. Do you not see? The beasts do not obey us. They obey the human alone. Reports poured in. The predator in the academy refused food, refused control, until Daniel approached. When he stood near, the beast ate, rested, even purred like a tame creature. When others tried, it roared and broke steel.
Daniel himself sat alone in his quarters, his thoughts heavy. He had never asked for this, never wanted it, yet the weight of every gaze pressed on him. Some eyes filled with fear, others with hunger for power. Students avoided him now, not out of mockery, but out of pure dread. When he entered a room, silence followed. When he left, whispers filled the space behind him. Late one night he was summoned by officials, dragged into an interrogation chamber. Bright lights burned his eyes, voices demanded answers. What technology do you use? What secret training does your species hide? Speak or be expelled. Daniel's answer never changed. I don't know. It just listens to me. His words enraged them. Some believed he lied. Others believed he spoke the truth, which was even worse. In the shadows of the chamber, a council envoy watched him closely. The envoy's voice cut through the chaos, calm but sharp. Perhaps the boy does not know, but humanity as a whole must. No power lies in one person alone. Outside, whispers spread across planets. Traders told tales in marketplaces. Humans are beast masters. Soldiers muttered in barracks. If they can tame predators, they can tame war. Fear grew, but so did ambition. Rival empires began to send spies to watch the academy. Ships hovered quietly in orbit, scanning, waiting. Inside the academy walls, pressure mounted. Daniel could feel the tension everywhere. Sometimes in the way guards clutched their weapons tighter when he passed. Sometimes in the way teachers avoided speaking his name aloud. One evening he returned to his quarters to find a message carved into his wall, words written by a trembling hand, monster, but beneath it another line had been scratched, or savior. The council finally issued its decree. Daniel was to be brought before them, not as a student, but as a subject. He was to stand in the grand chamber, surrounded by leaders from across the galaxy, and prove his nature. As the order reached the academy, the predator roared so loudly that the walls shook. Alarms rang, guards panicked. Daniel stood in the hall, staring at the beast's glowing eyes, and he whispered, "They will never understand." And in that whisper, the galaxy trembled without knowing why. The council wanted proof. Fear was not enough, whispers were not enough. So they gathered predators from across the galaxy. Giant carriers arrived at the academy, cages filled with beasts from deadly worlds, each one more vicious than the last. Creatures with spines of fire, wings like blades, jaws strong enough to crush steel. Students and teachers filled the viewing stands, their voices hushed. Guards lined the walls with heavy weapons, energy cannons armed and ready. Even ships hovered above the arena, prepared to fire if control was lost. Daniel was brought forward, chains around his wrists, though they knew chains could not stop him. His steps echoed as he entered the arena, his eyes dark with exhaustion. The first predator was released. A beast twice the size of the one from his academy days. Its roar made the shields flicker. It charged at him like thunder. Daniel stood still, fear rising in his chest. But he did not run. He looked into its eyes, and like before, the predator froze, lowered its head, and bowed. The crowd erupted in chaos. Shouts of disbelief filled the air. Council members leaned forward, their voices sharp. Test another. A second beast was released, this one covered in black smoke. Moving like shadow, it slithered across the ground toward him. Students screamed, but again, when Daniel raised his eyes. It stopped, curled beside him like a loyal hound. Whispers turned to fear, fear turned to panic. All of them, release them all, a counselor demanded. One by one, cages open. Ed, predators filled the arena. 10, 20, 30, roars shook the ground, claws scraped metal, but as Daniel stood in the center, his eyes steady, each beast bent low, each beast bowed. The arena.
The day arrived when Daniel was no longer a student, no longer a suspect. He was now a symbol, and the galaxy demanded answers. The Galaxy Council summoned him to the Grand Chamber, a place older than empires, walls carved with the histories of countless species. Thousands of leaders filled the seats, their voices like storms. Daniel was brought forward under heavy guard. The chains rattled, though everyone knew chains meant nothing. Predators had been gathered in cages around the chamber, beasts from every world, their roars shaking the foundations of the hall. The High Elder raised his hand. Silence fell. Human, today you prove what you are, prey or predator. One by one, the cages opened. Predators poured into the chamber, claws scratching stone, eyes burning. Voices of counselors rose in panic, but the High Elder shouted, "Let it be decided." The beasts rushed forward, a tidal wave of fury. Students in the stands screamed, guards aimed their weapons, ships hovered above ready to fire. But in the middle of the storm stood Daniel, his eyes unblinking, his breath steady, his heart pounding but unbroken. The first predator lowered its head, then the second, then the third, like falling stars. They all bent. The chamber shook not with roars but with silence, silence heavier than war. Hundreds of predators bowed at once, their bodies forming a living circle around him, their growls no longer rage but loyalty. The sight froze every leader in terror. Daniel's voice echoed soft but carrying like thunder. "You see it now. This is not my choice. This is what we are. Humans are not weak, not prey, not fragile. We are what you fear. We are what even beasts obey," a counselor shouted, trembling. "This is a threat to us all," another cried. "He is a weapon. We must use him." But an elder's voice cut through them, trembling with truth. "No, he is not a weapon. He is a way." Arning Daniel's eyes swept the chamber, meeting the gaze of every leader. "You built empires on chains, on fear, on control. But you cannot chain us. You cannot tame us. If the beasts bow to us, what will your armies do when humanity rises?" His words fell like fire. Counselors shivered. Empires felt small. The future felt dangerous. Above them, the predators roared as one, the sound shaking stars themselves. Their voices carried through the galaxy, across fleets, across worlds, a cry older than history. In that moment, leaders understood a truth they could not bury. Humanity was not a minor race, not a forgotten species. Humanity was the predator that predators feared. Daniel stood at the center, surrounded by loyalty he never asked for. His face pale, his voice calm. "I never wanted this, but now you know, we are not prey. We never were." And with those words, the chamber trembled, the council fell silent, and the galaxy itself realized the balance of power had shattered forever.